This time on Snowmobiler Television, we're here in Peterborough, Ontario for Sledorama, our first chance to get in front of a bunch of other sledders to talk snowmobiles. We've got new sleds, we've got old sleds, we got new parts, we got old parts, we got shiny sleds, and of course, we have greasy old triples too. Stay tuned because it's all starting right after this.
STV is brought to you by Yamaha, revs your heart. Polaris, think outside. Ford F-Series, Canada's best-selling line of pickup trucks for 56 years. Tough, smart, capable.
Out of the office that produces STV, we also do the magazines On Snow Magazine and ATV World Magazine. Then on the consumer show side, we do the Toronto International Snowmobile and Power Sports Show, the Motorcycle Super Show, and then Sledorama here in Peterborough. Now, you might be wondering why we do two snowmobile-related shows so close together, one in Toronto, one here in Peterborough. Well, that's because Sledorama is something completely different. This show is much more grassroots, taking place both inside and outside here in Peterborough. The Memorial Arena and Morrow Building fill up with indoor vendors. Then outside, between the two, is the swap meet. That'll have over 60 vendors this year. Now, one of the things that makes this event a little bit different is that it's one day and done, which means we set up on Saturday and then Sunday is open to the public for one day only. Now, to tell us more about this event, we've got Rich Kehoe, the ringmaster to this circus.
The Peterborough Sledorama is a very country show. It's relaxed. We're outside of the city, but we're in a little city up north. We're in Peterborough. And it's a great venue to have the grassroots of snowmobiling. All these snowmobilers from across like the province, they come as far away from New Brunswick and Quebec for the swap. It's one of the largest snowmobile swaps in Canada, and we're pretty proud of that. It's so exciting when the doors open up and there's all these people coming crushing. They get to go through the swap meet, find these great finds and some not so great finds. And then they go through the show and shine and they get to vote on all these awesome sleds that these guys have restored. So there's something here for everyone. It's very relaxed atmosphere and we're happy to have it. It doesn't have a lot of frills that a big trade show like the Toronto International Snowmobile and ATV show has, like the big freestyle events or the big corporate booths or the massive retailers there, like Royal Distributing. This is a very condensed show. It's a little smaller, it's a little more homey feel, and again, it's the grassroots of snowmobiling where it's like where I grew up and how I grew up snowmobiling. It has that feel to it, that texture to it. We're really happy and excited about that, and we don't want to change that ever.
Even though the consumer experience is different for each show, snowmobiles are obviously a key focus at both, and at either show, you will definitely find snowmobilers walking the floor.
I've been to the Toronto Snowmobile Show a lot. I try and make that a yearly event. It's kind of the first rite of passage to get into the snowmobiling for the rest of the year. Being my first Sledorama, it's a different mood here. It's a lot of vintage parts. It's a lot of people looking for that nitty-gritty, whether it's a vintage snowmobile patch, whether it's sliders for your sled or carbide runners, that type of thing, high facts. It's a different feel in that aspect. This is a little more grassroots, hands-on, and you can really get in and get one-to-one with the vendors that are here as well as the friends and fans that I see walking the floor.
Yeah, the atmosphere is amazing, right? You've got a lot of the vendors inside here, which are amazing. People are dying to see, you know, all the different people that they have here. The old stuff outside is amazing too. And I haven't seen anything out there for the SRX, but yeah, I'm a diehard old SRX triple guy from the early 2000s, yeah.
And what color does the SRX have to be?
It's gotta be blue, Jeff.
Not only does this show's experience come through a little differently for the people attending, the atmosphere also allows vendors to bring their products to the consumers a little differently too.
We've been supporting the Sledorama show for 7, 8, 9 years now, and it's close to our location in Buckhorn in the Peterborough area here. So it's treated us so well. We get to see we call them friends now, more so than customers, every year. And it's excellent. The enthusiasts are here. A lot of the core vendors that are here, you'll hear the term grassroots. You know, we find that the Peterborough show is the real hardcore. You know, you don't see some of the city crowd they're just kind of shopping. You know, the Peterborough crowd seems to be you know, they got product in their hand. They are riders. You know, that would kind of be the big difference. So.
It's the first time for us at Sledorama, so to see just people here, happy to be here today, just coming back again, just seeing snowmobile, talk about snowmobile with other people, we see right away that everybody's enthusiastic about that, because we're all home checking videos, checking stuff on internet, but it's never like talking about what we like in front of two people together. So that's good for our heart. It's for us to came back with just talking with the customer about those performance products. Just this for us, it's really amazing.
I was really looking forward to going to the Toronto show, to tell you the truth, to start with. I love that show, but next year it's going to be crazy. So I expected this show to be very busy because of the people that want to get out to a snowmobile or a power sports show and couldn't go to that one. I assumed that a lot of the people would come here, or some of them at least. I think that's what happened. Like, I've never seen lineups at this show like we had here today, lined up all the way back there down to Lansdowne Street, pretty much. And then also in the swap area, we had you guys had a great field of vendors out there, and I haven't seen that busy ever either. So at least when I was out there, it was jammed shoulder to shoulder. So that was awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I think all snowmobilers are a good quality crowd. That's why I'm in the business, because we're such a fun group of people. Everybody's, they're into power sports, they're into recreation, they like outdoor stuff. So that's what we all love. So they're all good people. You know, you never go to a snowmobile or a power sports show and get in an argument with anybody. We're all just sitting here talking about good old times, remember when, this is what's going to happen this year, and that type of stuff. So yeah, a great crowd here this weekend. And like I said, out in the swap area, the older demographic are out there having a great time. And then we had all kinds of kids coming through here looking at stuff, and the vendors inside here too. So you had a real nice mix of demographic going on here. And yeah, I was really happy to see the attendance we had here today.
Coming up after the break, we're going back in time to early this morning for the start of the swap meet.
This segment is brought to you by iGrip Studs.
Old sleds have never been more popular, but finding parts for them has never been harder. That's why swap meets can be a great source to find those old bits or even whole new project sleds. Now for Sledorama, it's a one-day and done event, so it's all happening today, but that doesn't mean there isn't a huge selection of the good rusty gold. This year, there's around 60 vendors bringing their treasures to Sledorama, and they start moving into the swap area early Sunday morning. The lineup starts well before dawn, and the gates open to the swappers at 6 a.m. sharp, which leaves just enough time to get their spaces organized for when the gates open to the public at 9. So a word of advice, if you're looking for a specific part for an old sled or maybe a whole new project sled and you want to peruse the selection at the swap meet, well, get here early, get to the meet and get your deal done before you check out the rest of the buildings here at Sledorama, because remember, if you snooze, you lose at the swap meet. I suppose you can also go with the strategic play and wait till the very end of the day for the best deal from the vendors who don't want to pack their stuff up again and bring it home. But by then, the best stuff is already long gone. And you never know who'll be looking for something. Even my brother is here with a couple of his buddies looking for some old gold.
Well, it's first show that's gone on in a while, and so we've been talking about it for a bit, so we kind of packed in the truck and headed out this morning. So happy to be here, grab some parts, tried to get some sleds, but no luck so far. So, I care about my wife a lot, so I really wanted to make sure she had a really good Christmas present. And, I hope this airs after Christmas, so what I've got her isn't, the surprise isn't ruined.
Like this surprise here, she's gonna love you.
If you air this before the 25th, man, we're gonna have a hard time.
Swap meet at Sledorama is always a good turnout. This year was no exception. We had a ton of people through this morning, and just overall sales were good, and lots of faces we hadn't seen in a while. So I was able to sneak out a few times today. Went out looking for a few things and managed to find some old brochures for some of my personal collection of old Yamaha sleds. There was everything from old toys to more modern parts for some of the newer stuff. As a vendor, at the end of the day, I tend to go around and try to find some parts that I have a hard time finding in my business to see if I can buy some stuff to bring home with me to have as inventory. I think anybody that enjoys snowmobiling coming to a swap meet like this, it gives a great mix of you get to see the new stuff, you get to see, the clothing and apparel and accessories, but you also get to see some of the old stuff and go, man, this is a trip down memory lane. So it's definitely one of those things that brings back a bit of both.
My day isn't done yet at Sledorama, because after the break, I'm heading into the show and shine to look at some of those gorgeous old sleds that may have started their restoration life, like this one here behind me, a diamond in the rough at the swap meet.
This segment is brought to you by WeatherTech.
Show and shines are the perfect place for enthusiasts who like to restore old sled to display their passion for all of us to enjoy. Now, the countless hours that goes into finding parts, rebuilding and restoring these classic sleds simply cannot be counted. For Sledorama, it doesn't cost anything to display your sled. And while there may not be a huge fleet to look at, what's here is quality.
It's a passion that can consume you, and you have to be very, very careful of it. As our good friend Bob Pilkington has said many a time, you can have all kinds of dreams, and if you're not careful, it can financially ruin you. When my father and I first got in this game 25 years ago, our model, if you call it that, was we do not put any more into a restoration than what that sled originally sold for. So for a young person like I was, that was in my late teens, early 20s, and grabbing these things, and people were willing to give the stuff away. I've even had sleds given to me, literally. A young person nowadays is going to have a lot of hard times trying to do that kind of thing. And again, this is kind of dinosaur stuff for them, or young kids are more or less interested in what maybe their father rode in the 90s or 2000s. You're really doing it for fun, and you're doing it to save a little history. You don't get into this game, I don't think anyway, to make a living or a profit off it. You do it for the fun. Being in clubs like this and going to shows like this really, really helps.
One sled that's not here today at this Sledorama Show and Shine, but was in the past, was a very interesting snowmobile. Now, it was easy to miss because it wasn't restored and things like the engine were missing. But if you did overlook that sled, at the time, you missed one cool sled ridden by one cool guy, Henry Bita. Because of the history of the sled, we decided to catch up with the current owner of the machine and Stephen Bita, Henry's son, to talk about this cool old machine and the feat it accomplished.
Well, there's so many memories, it's hard to know where to start, but I would say that, some of the things that were the originating ideas behind why the snowmobile was built are about generating traffic to bring people in our door, as we were a Ski-Doo dealer at the time. And that was a way to generate a lot of media attention. And one year we'd won the New York State Grass Drag Championship. The press asked us, what are you going to do next? And then I was at the time 16 years of age when I was interviewed by some of the newspapers in the area. And they asked me the fateful question, what's next? And I said, well, my dad always wanted to cross Lake Ontario on a snowmobile. And that kind of compelled him to build this pond and to build the snowmobile and become a Sea-Doo dealer at that time. And all those things came together so that we could create this snowmobile to cross Lake Ontario from Port Dalhousie to Toronto Island in the summer of 1988. We had postponed 6 weeks in a row. We had waited for the right day when conditions were calm enough on both shores, on the Toronto side and the St. Catharines side. So it was a real challenge to get the weather perfect to do it. Otherwise, the sled was not capable of handling the waves. And so we had postponed so many times that the press kind of saw this as a hoax and we weren't really ready to do it. And then finally the day came and there was only a handful of people that were kind of ready. There was some hecklers actually watching him on the shore at Port Dalhousie Lakeside Park. And they were kind of egging him and he wasn't really quite ready. We were on a boat kind of with a camera thinking that he might take off in a few minutes or, we weren't sure when. But then he just impulsively started the sled and took off, and that's why the video that some may have seen shows him kind of already on the water. He didn't really get to take off. It was just sort of a knee-jerk reaction to a heckler.
With current sleds, especially mountain sleds with their big long tracks and huge paddles, water crossing really isn't that much of a challenge. Still risky, but doable on a stock sled. Looking at Henry's sled though, what amazed me was the short track with those little itty bitty lugs. I mean, he crossed Lake Ontario on a sled that really shouldn't be crossing Lake Ontario.
I believe an 86 Formula SS25 that had a 521cc motor in it. It was over 100 horsepower, so it had a good horsepower to weight ratio. This whole kind of design, we thought it was sort of aquadynamic in nature. It was like a Sea-Doo shape and sort of cut through the waves decent. And the track was put on backwards. The suspension was designed with some of the sway arms welded solid. Unfortunately, part of the way across the lake, the one sway arm, the weld broke, and you could see it flapping in the video.
Right now, there's no plan on restoring Henry's old lake racer. The plan is to preserve it like it is. Now, it would be something to see the old sled skip again, but just being able to get close to it and take it in just as it is still something. I'm amazed it did what it did. Coming up after the break, we're wrapping things up at Sledorama.
This segment is brought to you by Ford.
"24 years ago, Sledorama was started by Joe Scullard here in Peterborough. Now, the show has grown in both size and popularity since then, but has always kept the grassroots feel to it. After a successful and busy show, we caught up with Joe to look back at the day and the history of Sledorama.
In the late 1990s, I was part of the car show stuff, doing car shows, and I said, we need to have some history back here again to do with snowmobiling. So in the late 90s, I started this show called 4th of Sledorama. So 2 years we did this show at the bingo barn on Fowler's Corners, where the Kawartha Cup started as well, right up there from the lake, on the Chemung Lake. So we did it at the bingo barn, had a lot of fun, and 2000 that I approached the city about the memorial building. I couldn't get it. So I had to work some things out with the gentleman there that had the flea market on. Anyways, and he let us use it for that date. The usual date of third week in November kind of thing, and it's been going on that way since. In 2016, after doing all those years of doing this show with all the history, so that really intrigued me about the Kawartha Cup taking place here at Morrill Park. So we wanted to bring it back to the Memorial Building and have that take place and be part of this, bring Sledorama back to the park where everything took place. I'm so proud of OSM, what you guys have accomplished today. It went pretty darn good.
At the end of the day, the Peterborough Sledorama was above expectations for us. We had a great crowd. People came out. We didn't expect the crowds to be as big as what they were. It was a great experience. There was a great swap by the time we got all the swappers in at 4:30 to 6:30 this morning. We're exhausted and wow, that's all I can say. It was great to see so many people that I haven't seen for a long time. So for us, we couldn't be happier. And I think that the show attendee next year is going to be blown away with what they have to see. And I think that the swappers are going to be blown away, the exhibitors, the guys bringing the show and shines. It's going to be amazing.
We are literally rolling up the carpets on the 2021 version of Sledarama. It's been an amazing show, but now I can't wait for the snow, which is going to happen on the next episode of Snowmobiler Television.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Yellowstone County, Montana. STV has been brought to you by CKX, Wear Your Passion. Schaefer's, specialized lubricants since 1839. Best Western Hotels and Resorts. Ready to get away?